decades, it had been the policy of the United States never to allow Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon. Many decades. Since they seized control of that proud nation 47 years ago, the regime and its murderous proxies have spread nothing but terrorism and death and hate. They've already developed missiles that can threaten Europe and our bases overseas, and they're working to build missiles that will soon reach the United States of America. After Midnight Hammer, they were warned to make no future attempts to rebuild their weapons program, and in particular, nuclear weapons. Yet they continue, starting it all over. We wiped it out, and they want to start all over again, and are at this moment again pursuing their sinister ambitions. We are in negotiations with them. They want to make a deal, but we haven't heard those secret words. We will never have a nuclear weapon. My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. But one thing is certain, I will never allow the world's #1 sponsor of terror, which they are by far, to have a nuclear weapon. Can't let that happen.
Ukrainians in Kyiv fell silent to mourn the loss of hundreds of thousands of soldiers and civilians on Tuesday as Ukraine commemorated the 4th anniversary since Russia's full-scale invasion.
Thank you so much. Slava Ukraini.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky received a standing ovation after speaking to the European Parliament as he urged Ukraine's allies to sustain their support. EU nations hoped to agree to fresh sanctions against Russia as well as a €90 billion loan for Ukraine. However, Hungary, which maintains close ties with Moscow, vetoed both decisions. Hungary and neighbouring Slovakia accuse Kyiv of deliberately blocking a Russian oil pipeline, which Ukraine says it is trying to repair after a Russian strike last month. Zelensky says EU membership would be a guarantee of Ukraine's future security after a peace deal was signed, and that his country would be ready to join by 2027. Dignitaries, including European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, attended prayers with Zelensky in Kyiv's St. Sophia Cathedral. Unlike previous years, no heads of major Western governments attended the anniversary. However, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, among others, joined the coalition of the willing video conference virtually. Starmer stating Russia was not winning the war.
And just to underscore that point, in the last year, Russia has suffered 500,000 casualties to gain and occupy less than 1% extra of Ukrainian territory. That is not a country that 4 years into a conflict is winning.
Hundreds of thousands of soldiers on both sides have died or been wounded in Europe's bloodiest conflict since World War II. Russian forces have also killed tens of thousands of Ukrainian civilians and destroyed cities with missile and drone strikes. Ongoing peace talks brokered by the United States appear to have stalled over the question of territory. There were no official commemorations of the anniversary in Russia. However, Russian President Vladimir Putin accused Ukraine, with the help of Western intelligence agencies, of trying to sabotage the peace process between the two countries.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum on Tuesday assured fans that there is no risk in coming to Mexico for the World Cup when the tournament kicks off in June. Her reassurance comes after violence erupted following Sunday's killing of cartel boss Nemesio Oseguera, better known as El Mencho. The death sparked coordinated roadblocks and arson attacks by his loyalists across Jalisco and other states. Sheinbaum said conditions were stabilizing and security forces were working to keep the public safe. On Tuesday, Reuters captured this footage of security forces cordoning off sections of a highway littered with burned-out vehicles. Past arrests of top cartel figures in Sinaloa have also triggered violent retaliation, including shootouts and vehicle fires. Sheinbaum has largely followed the philosophy of predecessor Andrés Manuel López Obrador, who aimed to address the root causes of violence under the slogan "Hugs, not bullets." She said the killing of El Mencho did not mark a change in course. Separately Tuesday, FIFA President Gianni Infantino said he was very calm about Mexico's readiness, while a spokesperson said the organization was monitoring events closely. The country is set to host 13 of the tournament's 104 matches, including 4 in Guadalajara, Jalisco's capital. Pablo Lemus is the state governor.
There is absolutely no intention by FIFA to withdraw any host city from Mexico. The 3 host cities remain, and actually, next Saturday, pay attention. Next Saturday, at the Akron Stadium, FIFA will present the World Cup trophy, which will visit Jalisco.
Mexico is also set to stage several warm-up matches before the tournament opens on June 11th.
I attended the State of the Union address, knowing that the president would come in and that he would have to pass by me to get to the podium. And I wanted him to know that portraying the President Obama and First Lady Obama as members of the primate family is not only unacceptable, it is something that is deplorable and something that we will not tolerate. At least I will not. And I wanted him to get close to someone who could tell him to his face. And I did. And judging from the look on his face as he turned away quickly, he was at a moment of vulnerability because he's not confronted by people who are willing to speak truth to him.
Can there be many people more symbolic of the rot that eats away at the British establishment than the former Duke of York and Special Trade Envoy, and the former Business Secretary, First Secretary of State, and Ambassador to the United States? Their association with Epstein and their actions on his behalf, while trusted with the privilege of public office, are a stain on our country.
I doubt there is anyone in this House who is not shocked and appalled by the recent allegations. Colleagues and many civil servants have told me their own stories of their interactions with Mr. Mountbatten Windsor, and they all betray the same pattern. A man on a constant self-aggrandising and self-enriching hustle. A rude, arrogant and entitled man who could not distinguish between the public interest, which he said he served, and his own private interest.
A sleek, modern villa was where Nemesio Oseguera, leader of the Jalisco New Generation cartel, spent his final hours. Reuters footage shows the home's messy kitchen, with cartons of milk, spoiled strawberries, unfinished pastry, and boxes of produce left on the floor. Bottles of hygiene and skincare products, vitamins, and empty boxes of luxury items were also found inside. There is also a small makeshift altar with Catholic figures including the Virgin of Guadalupe, Mexico's patroness, and St. Jude, the patron saint of lost causes. The 2-story villa sits inside the exclusive Tapalpa Country Club, a gated enclave of weekend homes in the hills of Jalisco. Authorities had been led there by a tip tied to Oseguera's lover. Burned-out cars and trucks sat on some of the roads encircling the compound after a siege-like raid by the military on Sunday. Oseguera, better known as El Mencho, tried to escape through the back garden to a wooded hillside but was hit by gunfire during the pursuit. Authorities said he died of his injuries while being airlifted away. Tapalpa has faced scrutiny before. 10 years ago, the U.S. Treasury Department imposed sanctions on several businesses in the area, alleging they were used to launder money for the Jalisco cartel and its financial arm.
Warner Brothers Discovery on Tuesday reopened the door to a takeover by Paramount Skydance. That is after Paramount raised its offer for the studio to $31 per share. The intense bidding war for the firm behind Batman and Harry Potter has reached fever pitch, with the board signaling that Netflix may lose its place as the preferred suitor. In its revised bid, Paramount also raised the termination fee it would pay should the deal fail to gain regulatory approval to $7 billion, up from $5.8 billion. It also agreed to pay Warner shareholders 25 cents per share per quarter for every quarter beyond September 30th that the deal does not close. The rival bidder also agreed to contribute more equity should banks raise concerns about Paramount's ability to finance a deal when it closes. Warner's board said it has not determined whether the revised proposal is superior to a merger with Netflix, but said directors would give it further consideration. Should a superior deal emerge, Netflix has 4 business days to revise its offer. The streaming giant has offered $27.75 per share in cash for the movie and television studios, its catalog, and HBO Max streaming service. None of the firms involved commented on reports of the new offer.
For Ramadan, we are working on decorating Hamra streets with the Ramadan theme, with the available means. So we are using all sorts of cardboard and CDs, turning them into stars and moons to decorate all the trees in Hamra Street. We also had wooden boards with drawings on them, and we are cutting them out into stars and moons. We focus a lot on sustainability, so we'll remove this decoration and store it, and next year we will place it back in the street, God willing, and if there are any extras we can work on, we'll definitely work on them again.